The sole purpose of this video is to provide a basic overview and orientation of your new apparatus. This video is not intended to act as or replace individualized driver-operator training. Individual fire departments may base guidelines, policies, and procedures tailored for best practices. Pierce Manufacturing and Hughes Fire Equipment representatives are not liable for injuries caused from acts resulting from actions inconsistent with the information provided within this video and/or accompanying manuals. Refer to the Operation and Maintenance Manual for complete details relating to the components and features of this apparatus. Only trained personnel should operate this vehicle or perform maintenance. You are responsible for learning how to operate this fire apparatus under all conditions without having to refer to the manual while operating at an emergency incident. This video will discuss types of warnings and caution labels. It is your responsibility to locate and identify each of the labels and understand the importance and associated hazards. Warning labels will point out procedure that must be taken or action that must be avoided to guard against the possibility of serious injury or death. Caution labels will advise you that there is a risk of damage to property if certain precautions are not followed. Continuous training, reviewing of operation and service manuals, developing good standardized practices will assist driver operators with a more complete understanding of the components and operation of this fire apparatus. As the driver operator of this vehicle, you are responsible for understanding the function of each component of the apparatus, maintaining control of the fire apparatus at all times while in operation. Make operational and functional changes while operating at an emergency without having to read operator's instructions or safety warning labels. Operate manual override and emergency shutdown procedures immediately if a component fails to operate properly. Components location may vary with each Pierce fire apparatus. Review the exact location of each component prior to operation. Major inconsistencies between your vehicle and the information contained in this video should be directed to your sales representative. Safe operation of any vehicle is the responsibility of the driver operator. You must learn the location and function of all controls, switches, gauges, valves, inlets, and discharges. Due to a higher center of gravity, heavy trucks have a significantly higher rollover tendency than other types of vehicles. To reduce the risk of rollover, avoid making sharp turns, excessive speed, and avoid abrupt maneuvers. In the event of a rollover crash, an unbelted person is significantly more likely to become injured or die than a person wearing a seatbelt. In the event of a crash, unbuckled occupants can also become a hazard to other occupants, as they may be thrown around inside the cab. Seatbelts are required while in operation. Please refer to your warranty certificates for details and information enclosed in your manuals. Customer-installed equipment must be mounted to withstand road travel and comply with NFPA 1901. Modifications such as drilling holes or welding to structural frame components of the chassis are not permitted. Contact Pierce for instruction and review of non-structural sheet metal or other dissimilar metals for modification. Follow the radio installation guide for further assistance on installing or mounting electronics. Before placing your new apparatus into service, perform a primary inspection of key components of the apparatus, including all fluid levels, anti-lock braking systems, electronic stability control, and automatic traction control. Weigh your apparatus to ensure that it conforms to axle and brake ratings. Never exceed the gross axle rating printed on the label inside the cab. Exceeding these ratings could lead to reduced component life, personal injury, or death. Review the use of auxiliary braking systems, compression brake, exhaust brake, electronic retarder, and hydraulic retarder. Before placing the apparatus in service, refer to the operational maintenance manuals. Information on the operation and maintenance functions for the components such as the pump, pressure governor, and foam systems, along with other options, is provided in either the Pierce manuals and/or other manufacturer support information delivered with the apparatus. If you need more information, please contact Hughes Fire Equipment. Congratulations, Clark County, Nevada, on your new fire apparatus, job number 32287. Please utilize this 5-digit job number when referencing your apparatus with Hughes Fire Equipment or Pierce Manufacturing. Let's get started on a brief orientation of your new apparatus. Let's start down underneath the front bumper. On the face, you'll find 2 open-ended tow hooks located just under the front bumper. In the face of the front bumper, you'll find a right and left electronic siren PA speaker system. And just beside that, on the right and left side, you'll find your air horns forward-facing. Moving around to the side of the apparatus, you'll find on the right and left side emergency warning lights. Moving up on top of the bumper, on the driver's side, you'll find your mechanical siren. And then located directly in the center, you'll find a tubbed storage location for your front bumper load. Moving over to the side, right and left side turn signals. Just inside of that location, the headlight cluster, you'll find your low and high beam headlights. High beam is on the inside, low beam is on the outside. Moving up from that location, you'll find a cluster of emergency warning lights forward facing. Then as we move further up onto the right and left side, you'll find a convex and flat mirror. Moving up all the way up to the very top to the brow of the apparatus, you'll find 5 running lights. Located on the side, you'll find side-facing emergency warning lights and also forward-facing emergency warning lights on your light bar. There are grab handles for sufficient access for firefighters getting in and out of the vehicle, and there are also emergency warning lights located on the side of the apparatus. As we move up to the top of the bucket area, you'll find an emergency warning light side-facing on the passenger and driver side, and then you'll also find an overload or a warning light located just to the rear for the operator at the pedestal location. You also have on the right and left side 2 pole lights located on the bucket. Underneath, on the bottom section of the bucket, you'll find 2 rubber bumpers. Located just outside of those bumpers, you'll find 2 downward-facing floodlights. And then just behind that, you're going to find 2 steel attachment points. There are also some warning labels in regards to utilizing those. Located in the very front, you'll find your drain for your ladder pipe, and then just underneath that, you'll find your downward sprinkler. Let's take a look at some close-ups here, the items we just talked about. Here's that tubbed storage location, 1.5" swivel front discharge. Moving around to the side, you'll find your headlight cluster, turn, and emergency warning lights, and also an air intake beneath the headlights. Onto the side of the apparatus, you'll find your shoreline inlet. This is a 20-amp shoreline inlet. Let's move now mid-location. We'll start with some warning information. First, entanglement hazard. Because of those lines coming off the side, there's the possibility of entanglement. Also, pressurized caps could be an issue. While under pressure, while removing them, be cautious. And then to the far right, it's not advisable. Warning label here regarding not riding on the side of your apparatus. Let's move now to the left-hand side. Number 1 discharge. You can find that's a 2.5-inch discharge. Just inside of that location, you'll find a exterior plug when operating on generated power. And then the large diameter intake is the Pierce American flag Eagle logo. And in the upper right-hand corner of the image, you're going to find your air inlet. Moving down to the lower left, you'll find the number 3 discharge. This is blue. It's going to be a 2.5-inch discharge. Moving further to the right, you'll find your 2.5-inch auxiliary inlet for the driver's side. And then you'll also find all your associated drains for this area. Here's some close-ups of those things that we just talked about. Moving down to the right side of this panel, you'll find that 2.5-inch driver's side auxiliary inlet. Let's now move just up from this location where you'll find on the back of the cab 2 pole lights. The release mechanism for operation of those is this set screw here, or release nut. You'll also find this long compartment storage here. There are 2 slam latch style or turn style latches. I would like to point out down on the lower right, this is your discharge area for your pre-connects or speed lays. This release mechanism here allows those speed lays to be removed to the downward position or onto the ground. There's also a label here, a little difficult to see. This is for entanglement, and that's a warning label.
We're going to start now with the first compartment here. This is going to be your pump panel compartment. We'll start in the upper left-hand corner. At the very top, although you will see the strap is kind of covering it, if your pump is properly engaged, that light will be illuminated. On the left-hand side, you're going to find an intercom system. There is a push-to-talk on the lower side, and at the very top, your volume control. You'll also find your master intake on the left side in the gray area. In between the master intake and the master discharge is where you'll find your test gauge ports for vacuum and pressure. They are currently plugged. To the right, you're going to find your PCM fault. There is an amber indicator if, for example, that illuminates. And you'll also receive an audible alarm, which is down at the lower section here. On the bezel, you can also control the volume control. As we move to all the discharges, first let's start with your front discharge, number 1, number 2, and the 2.5-inch cross length. They're all independently labeled, and they are also color-coded. To the right, you'll find your electric prime, and there are priming instructions. For best priming, you should be at 1,000 RPMs. To the right, this is your Pierce throttle pressure governor. We'll go over that in more detail in the next set of images. Let's start first with the left-hand side of the next section down. There are some generator operating instructions here, and then also just beneath those, you'll find your tank fill recirculating line, and further to the right, you'll find your tank to pump. Your vehicle is equipped with 2 electronic valves. First, the number 2 passenger side, and also the large diameter passenger side. These are the 2 electronic Acron valves that will control those 2 discharges. Further to the right, you'll find in the pink color your aerial discharge. And then just beneath that, because this is an aerial device, there is a danger of electrocution, and that's what the danger sticker is for. We'll talk about the Pierce minimum operation maintenance schedule in the next set of images also. Let's move down to the next section. On the far left, this is your intake relief valve. This is the ability to adjust that relief. And then to the right, you'll find your primer drain. We'll cover what's behind the door here on the right in the next set of images also. And then I would like to point out that only trained personnel should be operating this piece of equipment, and that's only after you've read the owner's manual and are familiar with your training. Down at the very bottom, you will find all of your associated drains. Let's go ahead and talk about some of those items that we just mentioned earlier. Behind that door, you'll find your manual pump shift override. It's a protected switch, and there's also an amber light if you've activated it. Let's go back up to that pressure throttle governor. In the upper left-hand corner, if illuminated, you'll find a yellow check engine light. Located in the center, you'll find a digital readout for your RPM. And then to the right, you'll find, if illuminated, red, a stop engine. Moving down to the next section, you'll find all of your engine diagnostic information. Moving further down from that, you'll find the blue module. This is going to be your water tank inside the apparatus. And then moving to the right, you're going to find the red silence button for the audible alarm. And then moving further down, you'll find your menu selector switch. This will allow you to select and move through the menu. And down at the very left side, you'll find your pressure control. This is an option of either pressure control or RPM control, and there is a digital readout in between the 2 of those. You can select either or. And the way you do that is through the control module, which is the blue button down on the left side, just beneath the pressure control. Once your pump is properly engaged and everything is active, you'll find the throttle ready light will illuminate. And then if you also choose presets, that's the green indicator you can select an option for a preset. Down in the next set, you'll find your throttle control, and then in the center, you'll find a push for moving to the idle position. Let's go over that minimum operation maintenance schedule. First, the job number, that's that 5-digit number at 32287. You'll also find on the left the GPMs, in the center, PSI, and on the right, RPMs. Those are for 150, 200, and 250 test pressures. On the left-hand side, you're going to find the driver's side floodlight, passenger side flood, driver's side body flood, passenger side flood. You also have a rear flood and also an aerial generator PTO switch, and in red, the air horn. Let's move now just above this location where you'll find your reel for your electric reel. And as we move underneath the apparatus, I just wanted to point out you do have perimeter lighting here, but you also have indicators for where your aerial outriggers will be reaching out to the ground contact. Let's start in the upper left-hand corner of those outriggers. You're going to find first that because these are a moving mechanical item, there is the possibility of crush, and be careful when you're operating those. On the left side, you'll find the rewind for that reel. In this first compartment back from the stabilizer, you'll find your breaker system. This is for your generated power. And in the very top section of this, you're going to find your air compressor to maintain air pressure for your main air brakes. Once again, left side breaker box. As we move to the right, you'll find your Kussmaul auto charger. When that's plugged into shore power, this will activate also. Down in the lower section, you'll find your Harrison generator information display, and then also in the white, you'll find the power on switch. Once again, this is your continuous power supply. That's for your generator, and you can see that the information on the left-hand side label here indicates that this is for your generator. Here's the information here on what those breakers control. This is the generator hours, start and stop switch. The two that look like buttons, those are actually fuses. And now we'll move through the next set of compartments. As we move through the compartments, we'll move rather quickly. On the left, you're going to find, once again, aerial could be a possibility for danger of electrical electrocution, and that's what that label is for. This is your DEF. This is a 4.5 US gallon tank. It's a blue cap. As we move further back in between the two dual wheels, you'll find 4 bottle storage locations. The center does lift up. Moving further back, you'll find dry deck material, LED lighting in all of your compartments, in addition with the possibility of shelving. Silver cap is going to be your diesel fuel. And then as we move further to the back, which is just before the rear outrigger, you'll find adjustable shelving here. Behind the rear compartment here, you're going to find the pads for your ground contact for your outrigger device. This is a 20 amp exterior plug. When plugged into shore power, when utilizing the generator, that will activate. Let's start to the rear of the apparatus. First, starting on the left and right, you'll find your backup lights, brake lights, turn, and also an emergency warning light. You'll also find 2 attachment points. There are some warning labels here that they should be direct pull when utilizing those. And then directly in the center is your aerial inlet. To the right of that aerial inlet is the information regarding the gauge as to the pressure coming in to your aerial inlet. And then the door behind or slightly to the right, this is the location for your aerial drain. We'll have some closer images of that also. A couple of warning labels here regarding you shouldn't ride on the back of your apparatus while in motion. Also, there's an entanglement warning back here also because of those hoses coming off. And then once again, that danger for utilizing that aerial device for some sort of electrical contact. You do have 2 floodlights to the rear section here, and also in the center a traffic advisor. Let's move now and take a look at some of the close-ups of these items. First, on the far left-hand side, this is the rear floodlight activation switch. As we move to the upward location, you'll find a hose storage location directly in the rear section of this compartment. You'll also find on the right and left side, you have this compartment, which is your diagnostic interface compartment. To the right, you'll find your level assist switch. You also have an interlock override. I'm not going to get into the interlock overrides or any of these processes. This is something that you'll require to utilize your owner's manual to make sure that you're operating this properly. To the right, you'll find an emergency stop and a red light indicator that you've pushed that emergency stop. You do have your stabilizers not stowed, and then you also have a hydraulic emergency power switch. This is a momentary push and hold switch. Down to the next section, you'll find your front stabilizers for right and left front, and then you'll also find rear stabilizer control for the right and left rear. You'll need all 4 of these green lights to operate to the next section to utilize your aerial device. Here's those warning labels I was pointing out to you that only a direct pull should be utilized on those, and then also pressurized caps. There can be hazards associated with opening a cap that may be under pressure. Here's your inlet pressure for your aerial device. And then just beneath that to the left, you're going to find the inclinometer left to right, and then there's also one front to back. This is the location of your drain. As we look to the center roll-up compartment door, this is your ground ladder storage and also long pike poles. Once again, this is the right side controls for those front stabilizers and rear stabilizers. Let's go ahead and take a look at the compartment here. This is for emergency aerial power and also stabilizer emergency power. There's instructions here on how to operate. It's also in your owner's manual. The valves are just above at the very top, as you can see here, rear stabilizer and front stabilizer. Located up on the top near the base of the ladder, you'll find this compartment. When open, you're going to find this is for your breathing air. There is an adjustment here for the regulator, and then there's also the ability for direct fill location of those two bottles on the right and left side of your vehicle. Let's take a look also in this compartment. You're going to find aerial controls here. This is for emergency overrides. You'll see right and left side for that, and you'll also find the switch, which is the diverter, on determining which one you want to power operate. There's also a warning label here regarding short jacking or the possibility of tipping your aerial over while in operation here. On the left of the pedestal, you're going to find some warning labels here, once again for electrical shock and also for crush. There is also an audible warning here. The outer bezel is the volume control for that. And then also for the operator, they can be plugged into breathing air at this location too. As we move inside the pedestal area, this is the cover of the top. You'll find your emergency stop in the upper left-hand corner. Set of 3 switches here for your under bucket light, your track light, and also aerial speed, slow, normal, and fast. And on the right side, you'll find your rear basket lights, front basket, ladder illumination, and emergency hydraulic power. You're also going to find the set of switches in the left section down for your nozzle control, and then to the right, ladder control. You will find the Pierce command zone up on the right hand side. Tremendous amount of information here. Seek your owner's manual for more information how to operate and move through these menus. On the left, you're going to find once again a set of warning labels here and also danger labels. What I would like to point out on some of these items here is on the left hand side of this panel of the cover is where you're going to find all of your information regarding load capacities and tip capacities. Just in front of the module here, you're going to find your communication piece between the bucket and also the person at the pedestal. This is on the lid of your aerial pedestal. This is your waterway under dry conditions. There's weight capacities, and then there's also a waterway charged. There's also information here about your nozzle positions. And then what I would like to point out at the very bottom is capacities are based on the following conditions, and there's some asterisks here. Please read those asterisks and seek your owner's manual for more information. The NFPA standards are also on the left-hand side. On the left-hand side of the aerial is also where you'll find your inclinometer from negative to 10 degrees negative or from 0 to 80. That's for your ladder angle. Just a couple of quick images here of your aerial device. We'll cover some of the items as we move more toward the tip area. There is a 16-foot roof ladder. You also have a folding ladder on the left-hand side of your apparatus. As we move through into the very front section of the bucket, you will find multiple attachment points. That's what the arrows are indicating now. And just for your own safety, at the very tip, this is also an emergency stop button. You can see that on the left-hand side, and also the indication that you should always be secured inside the bucket when operating. You'll find nozzle control, also aerial speed and lights. And then further to the right-hand side of this location, you'll find your removable control module for extend, retract, left and right, and lower and raise. If you push backwards or forward on this black release mechanism, that'll allow you to move that mechanism to the right or left-hand side of the vehicle. You do have the ability for air, and the plugins are located on the front and also to the rear section. You do have an audible warning here. Once again, the outer edge is the bezel, controls the volume. This is your intercom system to communicate with the operators at ground level or on the pedestal. As we move through some of the items in this location, we'll cover most of the things that are significant, that are things that you need to be aware of. First, you'll find discharges on the right and left-hand side of your MasterStream device, but on the rear section of the aerial, you'll also find a tremendous amount of helpful information regarding ladderway, weight capacities, and also some safety identifiers in this area. This is also location of your breathing air for people that are in the back. There are also storage locations here for SCBA face pieces and also hose storage for that breathing air. Just a kind of a 360 view of the bucket area, and then we'll move on to the rest of the compartments. You do have generated power. That's what these 20 amp circuits are. Just a quick view here. This is looking from the bucket toward the rear section of the apparatus. Let's go ahead and move now down to the compartment area. Let's cover some of those items. First, we'll start with the outriggers. You can see there's some warning labels here regarding crush injury. As we move through the compartments, once again, dry deck material, LED lighting inside those roll-up compartment doors. Just beneath that door, you'll find bottle storage locations with safety straps, in addition with an additional ultra-low sulfur diesel fill location. And then just pointing out in this image here that this lifts upward, allows you to have bottle storage underneath that. There are also 2 bottle storage in addition, with the possibility of like an oxygen bottle. Moving to the next compartments, the red handle here will be the release mechanism to allow that to be pulled outward. Once again, that danger label regarding electrocution, that's what that's for. As we move down, this is an extremely important label. Extremely hot diesel exhaust temperatures, and that exhaust is extremely hot. Be cautious as to where you park your vehicle. This is the cord reel rewind. Just above that, you'll find the cord reel. There's also one on the passenger and driver side. As we move through this compartment, this is the location of your cab tilt, and we'll go over that next. First on the left is a lock release, and then an activate and lower a raise is the red switch to move in that direction. There's instructions also on that to help facilitate lifting or lowering the cab. We're now to the pump panel on the passenger side. Entanglement hazard here regarding a warning sticker. As we move down, once again, shouldn't ride on the side of your apparatus, it's dangerous. And then further to the right, that pressurized warning for pressurized caps and the associated hazards with that. There is also a generator outlet here. When your generator is operational, you'll have a 20 amp outlet on this side. Located behind the Pierce American flag Eagle logo is your large diameter pump intake. Moving to the right, you'll find a pump discharge. This is a 2.5 inch. As we move further down, you'll find the large diameter discharge. You will find that these are the 2 electric valves that we were talking about earlier. Because these are electronic valves, you do have to have an override, and that's what the 2 overrides are located here. One at the top for the orange 2.5, the next one down is green for the large diameter discharge. At the very bottom, you'll find your associated drains for those. Here's a close-up of some of those items. This is that 120 VAC 20 amp plug regarding your generated power. To the right, you're going to find the number 2 passenger side discharge, and then in green, your large diameter discharge. Let's go ahead and move through some of the outer sections, especially the cab. One of the things I didn't identify was at the very top, you do have an external LED indicator for your water tank on the passenger and driver side. As we move inside to the cab, this is the rear section. You'll find your heater controls down at the base of the seat. Overhead, push on and off red and white lights, and also your David Clark headset system. There are 3 seats in the very back that are on the back wall. As we move forward, you'll find midsection, you'll find additional seating, and also overhead your AC control unit. Let's look from the rear section of your apparatus forward, just a quick view of the cab. I would like to point out on the right-hand side, this is your access for your electrical panel under that flap. We'll talk a little bit about more of that in the future in the next set of images. On the right side here of the door, as a matter of fact, all doors will have these labels regarding warning. Your vehicle is equipped with a supplemental restraint system, which is an airbag, and so be cautious when you're mounting equipment not to mount in those areas where the SRS label is located. Also, seatbelt information on your left side. As we look to the center cab, you're going to find 12-volt access points. You have 2 barrel style and also USB, and just beneath that, you're going to find your vehicle data recorder. All right, let's go ahead and take a look from the officer seat looking forward. You'll find map book storage, your vents, and on the right-hand side, a LED light. Overhead, you'll find a high-intensity light located in the center over each of the driver and passenger seat. Looks like we have 2 radios here, unit radios for contacting emergency services on the right and also on the left-hand side. Located in the center, you'll find a set of switches, passenger side scene, passenger cab floods, passenger side body flood, and then also the same set of switches for the driver's side. You also have a momentary air horn activation switch. Let's look to the left once again, unit radio. And as we look, I mentioned earlier about that cover. There's an additional access point here for gaining all of your daily checks for engine oil and transmission checks. Let's now go to the driver's area. Once again, point of entry for personnel. You're going to find those warning labels. And as we move through these warning labels, I would like to point out down at the right ankle of the operator, you'll find this placard, which is a yellow placard manufactured by Pierce. You'll also find some seatbelt information here. But this placard is important in the fact that this is the information about your vehicle. Manufactured October of 2018. It has your job number at 32287. It also has gross vehicle weight ratings, tire pressure, cold tire inflation, the VIN number, and then fluid capacities for your maintenance shop. As we look just beneath that at the entry of the cab, you'll find your auto charger. When plugged into shore power in the exterior vehicle, this will illuminate. On the left-hand side, you're going to find a mechanical foot pedal. This is for your mechanical siren. As we move up about left knee, you'll find your command zone. You'll also find all of your diagnostic for ABS and engine diagnostic ports. That's the location for all of your service personnel to gain access. You will find on the left-hand side, though, a audible alarm. Once again, the outer edge of that bezel controls the volume. As we move to the dash, you're going to find panel dim lights, headlights, ignition, and also your start switch. As we look to the center, you're going to find the tachometer and speedometer. Across the very bottom, you're going to find transmission, oil, DEF level, fuel level, front and rear air for your brakes. And then on the left upper corner, you'll find water, and on the right, you'll find volts. The very far right side of this image, you'll find this placard regarding the height, 12 feet, 9.38 inches in height, length 47 feet, 5.5 inches, and a gross vehicle weight rating of 48,000 pounds. This is also location of the job number. If you make any adjustments or changes to your apparatus, please update this placard. To the right, you'll find diagnostic informational display that will illuminate. Quick view here of the inside cab of the apparatus. We'll go over some of the items starting on the left-hand side with this set of switches. First, aerial master, aerial generator PTO switch. You have a platform leveling, a future switch in the upper right corner, fuel primer, OK to engage the high idle, a high idle switch, and also a load manager. Let's take a look back at the top section. This is where your climate control is located. At the very top, you can find the selection switch, and at the very bottom, you'll find temperature. On the left-hand side, you're going to find fan speed control. This is for the cab front section only. It's not control the rear air. Let's look down to the next set of switches. You have an engine brake on and off. There's also a setting switch of that engine brake, low, medium, or high. You have off-road traction, a front wheel lock, an indicator for your supplemental restraint system. This is your airbag. That's an indicator for a fault, and then a push-to-talk button. So you move down further, you'll find driver's side and passenger side cab floodlights. And then underneath that, you'll find driver's side body, passenger side body floods, and then rear scene and rear flood. Let's go ahead and move just slightly to the right down from this location, so where you're going to find your pull to apply your system parking brake and push to release. To the right of that, you'll find a 12-volt barrel style access point. And then as we move just to the very top, you'll find your Allison transmission pad, information here to pump in neutral. You'll also find in the lower section your interaxial differential lock with an indicator if it's been in the locked position. On the very top, you'll set a set of switches for stationary OK to pump and roll, a water pump switch, your DPF regen, DPF regen inhibit, and also mirror heat. This is also your mirror control for right and left. That's your main mirror. As we look to the right, you'll find your access point for all of your fuse boxes. This is going to be for your maintenance department. Congratulations, Clark County, Nevada, on your new fire apparatus, job number 32287. If you have any questions as to the content of this video or further information that is needed, please contact your Hughes Fire sales representative. Congratulations.